There you go.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I love that we have some audience here, and hopefully we have some people watching us on TV. And that's an exciting thing. We are appearing on TV, I mean, in an official channel.
First time.
So this afternoon, yeah, I mean, of course, and hopefully there will be the recording available on YouTube later in the evening. This is another event of our Council Connections series. And this Council Connections happen every other week at this time. And we try to alternate from interest groups, committees, and the professional staff at Woodland Pond. So today we have with us Tom Tango, Director of Plant Operations and Security. Did I get it right?
Actually, just plant operations.
Just plant operations.
Just plant
so
operations.
you lost half of your job now.
Correct.
Okay,
Right.
great.
Jason took it.
Okay, so we'll get started, and as we go, I mean, I would invite also later people from the audience. I mean, if anybody has questions, and I would encourage people to come to these meetings and to sit in person, because it's difficult to get you to hear when you are talking to your TV channel. We don't hear you here. Okay, so let me start on with saying good afternoon. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Oh, well.
And tell us, share with us, how did you come to be on this position, Director of Plant Operations?
I started here a couple weeks ago. It was 5 years. I've been here 5 years now. Some ways I feel like it was yesterday. Some ways I feel like it's 20 years. I saw the ad posted. I applied. I came and I met with Michelle and Bridget. And then I was invited back to come to a group interview with all the directors. And then I was offered the position. I did some research into the place and the people and everything else, because it was, I was just as much curious as the place I'd be going as they were about me. And I'm very glad that I made the decision and they made the decision. So that's, and then I've been here ever since.
What did impress you in particular when you look at the place? I mean, what made you?
Good point. Good question. I enjoyed meeting Michelle. You're always curious about, the person you'd be reporting to. I enjoyed the interactions I had with her and Bridget, and then I liked the interactions I had or I witnessed with all the directors in the room. It just seemed like a very respectful place, like that, everybody had a role and they were allowed to do that role. And I liked that. Also, prior to coming, I had talked to some vendors and suppliers that do business with Woodland Pond, and I couldn't find anybody that had a negative comment. And that was pretty good.
Sounds like a good deal.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your main responsibilities and, how large is your staff? And
my main responsibilities are maintenance, the maintenance crew, and getting all the work orders done. But in addition to that, a lot of my time is also spent with projects. It's also spent with a lot more now than ever, capital planning. In other words, we've been open 10, 12 years. What do we start replacing? What do we start changing? Where do we start investing money? Do we need a new roof? Do we need new HVAC? Things like that, to develop a plan that might not be exactly what we do each year, but at least we have a plan on what we're doing as we're going forward. So capital planning, maintenance. Also, I have the Emergency Management and Safety Committee, which is also a large undertaking. It comprises of two binders that one is a safety book and one is emergency book. The safety book being how to prevent things from happening, and the emergency book being, oh no, they did. what do we do?
What to do if they do?
Right, right, right. And that is a result of a lot of work from a lot of people. We have an emergency safety and planning committee made up of various members of all the departments. And I spent a lot of time working with local authorities, the police department, the fire department, the building department, because this document isn't just something that, yes, we need to have it on the shelf, but it also needs to serve a purpose. So we have that plan and we exercise it regularly, sometimes by things that happen that we don't plan, and sometimes by drills that we do plan.
So is there any routine timeline that you have to do it like once a year?
Well,
or-
there's a lot of authorities and regulations that regulate Woodland Pond. Woodland Pond being independent living and then being nursing home. So the health center is regulated by DOH, and they have a lot of different requirements than independent living, where it's really just by the building code. And not only do we have to do a lot of things, but we have to provide documentation that these items were done. So like when Department of Health comes in for their surveys, we need to prove to them that fire drills occurred every quarter, every shift, every section in the health center.
Yeah.
We have to prove to them that the fire sprinkler system was tested 4 times a year, every quarter. We have to show them documentation for that. We have to show them that the fire alarm system was tested twice annually. I could go on and on and on. I have 4 in my office. If you walk into my office above my head, there's 4 binders, A, B, C, D. And those binders all contain items that DOH wants to see when they come in.
Sure.
So when they come in for the survey, they spend a lot of time dealing with nursing in that realm. But then the sanitarian, that's a separate position person who comes in, and they'll spend time with me to make sure that all of these things happen and that the facility complies with any applicable DOH code.
So how large is your staff? I mean,
Depending on how you count, I have about 14 now.
14.
Right, right.
That's-
And a couple of vacancies.
So this is 14 full-time
14
equivalents.
full-time people right now, right? Yeah. Until a little while ago, one of the questions, when I started, in my world was maintenance, security, and safety. Then I had Jason reported to me. So then I had security, concierge, reception, and transportation, all of Jason's things. And then a little while ago, Jason became a director, and that's his own department. So so while I had it in my department, Jason did a phenomenal job owning that.
Yeah.
So that's, part and parcel of why Jason, became director with his own stuff. So a lot of that left, my world.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting change, but are there other changes that happened in the years that you have been here besides COVID, or talk about COVID as well? I mean, what are the main issues?
How things change? Things change here every 5-6 minutes. So it doesn't take long to change. If you don't like what you're doing, wait a minute. You'll be doing something else pretty soon. I guess from on the maintenance side, one of the things I think that we've really focused on in recent years is trying to do less putting out of fires and do more preventative maintenance. In the maintenance world, you have preventative maintenance, you have corrective maintenance, you have improvement maintenance. So we try to focus on a lot more preventative maintenance so that we have the same number of work orders coming in as normal, as always. But if you look through them, the work orders aren't so much, the wall fell down, the faucet leaks, things don't work. Because a lot more of it is, I'd like a shelf up over here, and things that aren't repair as much. I'm not saying totally, but the more we focus on preventative maintenance, the less we have corrective maintenance. So we focused on that. We've also focused on skills and skill sets that the maintenance crew have and improving those. We have maintenance guys who have some pretty good skills and can do some pretty good things. And we have a wide range of those abilities on staff. So in the years since I've been here, I'd like to think that those two things in the maintenance world are what we improved. Also, I think that the going back to the two binders we have of safety and emergency plans, we've always had them, but I think that what we've really focused on with everybody's work is we've developed plans that not just something that we have on a shelf, but there's something that we live by, something that we do, something that if I won lotto and didn't come in tomorrow, and something happened, there's a binder to pull and say, oh, this is what we do. We call this person, he handles this. And that, like I say, so that's a document developed over time, with a great deal of input. And that's another thing that I think that the department has really changed, focused on.
So you must have somebody just full time, just keeping that binder up to date.
It can be challenging because sometimes, when the state comes in, you don't know when they're coming. And sometimes like last time, a couple times ago, she came and we just had the sprinkler inspection the day before.
Wow.
I didn't have the paper from the guy at that point. So she was like, you didn't have it, and like, no, I had to hurry up and get that paper from the company in time. So it's keeping that up to date can be a challenge, but it's great.
So what other challenges what are the major challenges of your department?
I would say the biggest thing is I have never worked anywhere before that has as many incoming things. Like I always think like if I ever worked anywhere again, it would be like only one crisis a day. There's just a lot of things coming. There's a lot of, Woodland Pond is comprised of a lot of different departments. And all of those department heads believe, and rightly so, that their department is paramount. Their department, their needs are the most important. And I understand that, and that's how they should be. My role is to make sure that a very finite amount of resources get applied to all of these ever-changing demands in a way that I can assure that we're we have a matrix that we decide on. Is it a health and safety thing? So that's part of my big challenge is any given day, I get about anywhere from 80 to 110 emails a day. And a lot of that is things that people want and things that people need. And I understand they do. And it's just a question of prioritizing and applying resources and my time, my staff's time, as I see the need.
So would you say that that's the most difficult part of your job, or there is something else?
Most challenging. I wouldn't say difficult. Most times I'm pretty confident with the decisions that we apply, and I'm pretty confident with the direction we're going. Sometimes it's challenging to sell that, to tell somebody, I understand, you asked for something to happen. It hasn't yet, but I wouldn't say it's difficult as much as just challenging. That's all.
So what is the easiest part of your job?
Right here, this.
Doing this, I guess.
Right. I would say the easiest part, or the part that I like, is just going through the hall and talking to people. I mean, I work in your home.
Yeah.
And it's nice, you walk through, say hello to everybody. I remember when I first started and I was hearing in orientation that the expectation is that, as you walk past people, you say hello. And I was like, "Oof, it's gonna be rough," and now it's just come second nature. It's just something you do. And it's something I would miss if I didn't, like,
So what do you find the most fun or the most rewarding of your job?
There's times
You have time. You have time. You can
Right.
think about this.
if I leave here, like if something happens during the day, a lot of things happen here that, sometimes residents aren't even aware of. And if there's things that happen and that my department has solved or got a handle on, and if I can drive away at the end of the day, knowing like it's okay, the water's on, they have hot water at night. That's pretty satisfying that, something happened. Initially, it was like, oh no. And we, the department came together, or myself and other directors came together, and we figured out, immediate solution, short-term solution, and long-term solution. And as I get to drive away at the end of the day, that feels good. I don't want to drive away wondering, oh no, I'm going to get a call that so-and-so happened.
Yeah.
So if I can drive away and we've solved the problem today, that's a good day.
We have here among our audience, several people from the Sustainability Committee, and I'm one of the people to blame for that, perhaps. And but one of the things that in the Sustainability Committee we try to do is to see what can be done at Woodland Pond to reduce our energy and environmental impact. What would be your advice to us?
I saw that, and I pondered, like, what my answer will be. And I don't have a single answer for that. I think that answer is there's many answers. I think it's I think like a lot of people will tell you. I think it comes down to simple things like paying attention to the thermostats. I go into a lot of apartments that are way too cold in the summer and way too hot in the winter. I don't mean to point that, but I don't have a specific answer. What we're doing, or we have been doing, we had a couple of years ago, we had a NYSERDA funded study of all the HVAC, not the apartments, but all the common areas. And what that study looked at was, if a unit were replaced, what would we replace it with to be more efficient?
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a document that says, all that information. Like, for example, like a few weeks ago, PAC 15 provides heating and cooling to upstairs in assisted living. The unit died, so I needed to replace it. So I had to make a decision real quick. What do I replace it with? According to this NYSERDA study that we have, it said there's different types of equipment, and it lists payback periods. And the payback period on like the really super high efficient stuff was like 84 years. How
many?
84.
84
Yeah.
years. Oh, we have time. We have time.
Right. So we replaced it with the same thing that was there. But as that study talks about, what is there was 15 years old. That's about 5 generations of HVAC equipment. So we replaced it with brand new, 5 generation newer. And what that study lists is, the payback period was, I think it was like 3.2 years. So, and the reason I'm telling all this is it's not always, let's replace it with the greenest, because that might not be the most beneficial for the long term. But we had this study done and it looked at all those units. We are in the midst of, and I should get it in about a week or two, a study that tells me what do we do with the units in the apartments. We have 177 apartments that have magic air combined heat and AC units. If they go, we've changed some of them, what do we do? And so I have my NYSERDA funded energy study looking at that, and I'll have that in a few weeks also.
So you have already a solution. The next time something happens, you know which one.
So, but
which way
so,
you're
right,
going.
and the focus, and and when you're on these studies that NYSERDA is funding, their focus is energy reduction.
Yeah.
So, so everything that we're doing is being done, with energy conservation being, a main factor.
The goal.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So what do you think, or what it's your feel about what do residents, either individually
Mhm.
or through interest groups or committees, could do to make your work more effective?
But actually, I think a lot of groups or a lot of people are already. Like I participate with the Plan Operations Committee. They're a committee of the resident council that I meet with at least once a month. And we go over various things that I might be doing. And I talk to them about different projects coming up, different things we're going to do. I share with them priorities, and I get input from them on what they think. Do they think that we should do something a certain way? Do they think we should do something with different priority? And that's been great. And I would encourage anyone, any resident, to talk to them if they have questions about, gee, can Woodland Pond, paint the roofs purple? Can Woodland Pond, put in a swimming pool outside? I mean, if any ideas, would best be go through the Plan Ops Committee, and that's where we talk. The other thing that I say is, I still have on my calendar every Wednesday, 1 o'clock, office hour. No. I have had no one in, I don't know, 6 months.
So maybe we need to do more publicity.
And I know people sometimes get annoyed as I go through the hallway. Most conversations start with, Tom, I know I shouldn't stop you.
Are you talking to me?
And many times it's okay, I have time. But many times I don't have time. And I'm going somewhere to meet somebody at a certain time. And, so I would say one of the things that residents could do is, on a lot of topics, call concierge, tell them you're going to come to my 1 o'clock meeting. And the reason that works nicely down there is because sometimes if you ask me things, I don't really know what's going on with that topic, because that might be something that Noel is handling. That might be something that April knows more about. So, or it might be something that it's Rob doing wrong, and I want to blame him. So if
I was going to ask you about that.
So if you come down, if a resident comes down to my office for office hour, all of those resources are right there. So if you come down and say, what's happening with a specific work order, Noel is right there. I can ask him. If you come down to say something that I can try to blame Rob on, he's right there. I can blame him. So that I would say, I would encourage people to come down to the office hour more.
So maybe we should do something like, announce this or make more of an effort to let people know that you have office hours.
Right. Because if you stop me in hall and ask me, about something, I don't know right then. I'm not trying to be evasive. I just don't have that information.
Well, that's okay to be evasive. I mean, sometimes it works.
Yeah. Right.
So, so good point. I mean, that's a segue to, another question that I meant to ask you is, what type of issues residents may contact you that you think are better directed to other departments? What are the things that
Well, all right,
they
two
come
things.
to you
First-
and they say, just
First, the
go
most
somewhere
important,
else,
right?
yeah.
The most important thing is not worrying about, is it the right person? The most important thing is conveying the issue. In other words, if you have something that you need addressed, whether it's something that should go to Jason, but you came to me with it, or something that should go to me, but you came to Rob with it. The most important thing is saying it and getting it, communicating. Other than that, I would say well over half of my answers, the things that people ask me, half the time at least, my answer is call concierge and put a work order in.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people will, it happens all the time. People will stop me in the hall and say, Tom, I know I shouldn't stop you in the hall, but my closet door isn't closing. And I'll say, put a work order in. Now, they might have been waiting for a week to find me in the hall. Whereas if a week ago, they would just call concierge and say, my closet door isn't closing, we'd have fixed it already.
So should we tell people that when they don't like the food to come to you?
Well, obviously, right. No, well, they can. But yeah, obviously things that they should come to me about is anything that does with anything to do with maintenance, anything to do with the facility.
Yeah.
And anything bad that Rob is doing.
Yeah. Okay. So, so what do you do when you are not busy doing your environmental stuff? And you do anything for relaxation to just have fun, or?
A few years ago, I bought a foreclosed house. And if you saw that house right now, you wouldn't hire me to run your facility. It's pretty bad. But I spent a lot of time doing that. In the summer, I enjoy boating. I have a boat down in Marlboro. I spend a lot of time on. I have two kids. They're grown. My daughter just got a new job as vice president of data analytics for an investment firm in the city. She's going to be married in June. My son, he just got his master's in naval architecture. He's director of ferry traffic on the East River for the city.
Oh.
So sometimes in the summer, the only way to really see them was I had to have a boat, so they come up and go on the boat, and I have them trapped for a couple hours. That's what I spend my time. To give you a brief history of me, I started out years ago as a teacher. I was a shop teacher.
Oh.
I grew up on Long Island, taught shop for 5 years. I was in a position that I was the last hired, so they cut some cutbacks. I ended up into facilities management. I've run some agencies that operate group homes for the developmentally disabled. I ran the facilities of Gallery and Mall in Middletown, Woodbury Common, Beacon City Schools, Orange Ulster Bosse's, Crystal Run Village, which we had a bunch of group homes, and then here. So I've done a number of facilities, venues types, and
so you like
nothing.
teaching? You like teaching, or not?
Well, I liked it. I would say on a good day, when you knew that you accomplished something and you knew that you conveyed something to somebody, there really isn't a better job. For me, there wasn't enough of those days. I don't have the patience. My teaching method is if I said something you didn't understand, I repeated it again the same exact way, just a little louder. And if you still didn't get it, I said it again, but with a tone that implied something wrong with you. That really isn't the best teaching method. And I think it's fortunate that my position was closed out, or I'd still be there yelling at kids like, what do you mean? So that was. But
So-
no, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I did enjoy teaching, and there's things about it that, it was great. Yeah.
So we have an audience of almost 10 people. I mean, Dave, would you like to come here to the phone so people can see you? To the mic, not to the phone. I'm sorry.
So Tom, you talked a lot about the facility,
Mhm.
but you also are in charge of the grounds as well.
Correct.
Do you have some comments you could make about that? Because people are very concerned and interested in applications of pesticides, applications
Right.
of salt and sand, et cetera. Can you speak to that, please?
Yeah, fine. Couple things. Let's start with pesticides. I mean, the pesticides and the fertilizer. And there's a lot of new people here. The products that we're putting down now are the same products that we always did. And for the year, all last year, we didn't put any. We didn't have any treatments. Right when COVID started, and a lot of regulations came down from DOH, the requirement was that we don't have anybody doing it. So we didn't do it. And towards the end of the summer last year, coming into the fall a year ago, our grass looked pretty bad. There was a lot of brown spots. There was a lot of unevenness. That was really bad. So this year we started again. The treatments that we use, in other words, we've changed
That's okay.
grass and snow contractors. We used to have LCS and now it's Gonzalez. But the applicator of the contractors that are used to apply those chemicals are JP McHale. It's the same one they've all used. And like if we ever change them again, it's going to be the same, because of the licenses that are required to apply it. Any of the vendors that you get to do grounds work, they're all going to sub it out to a third party, and that third party is the applicator. Whenever product goes down on the grounds, we try to provide several days at least notice. We put a notice up on Connected Living. We put notices up at Concierge saying that it's going to go down. We do keep, one of the things we started a few years ago, we don't treat across the road. Like if you walk out of Concierge, that whole area over there, we don't treat. And that's so the dogs can go walking over there. I know there are people who would like us to not treat certain areas. We can't do that. We need to treat the whole thing. Because if we start, first of all, it's very hard to not treat certain areas. And if we did that, we would have the very things that we're trying to treat for in those areas infecting the treated areas. So we can't do that. Also, if you, anytime a product is used, Concierge has the SDS, the safety data sheet. So we have the safety data sheet on hand. A couple of years ago, there was somebody who was walking their dog, and the dog, I think, had a cut or something on his paw and licked. I don't know. I forgot exactly what happened, but she took the dog to the vet. The vet called. We emailed over the safety data sheet right away. And the vet was very appreciative because he knew the exact product that dog had stepped on. It turned out it had nothing to do with it, but it was at least information that the vet got right away.
Salt.
The salt, we use a salt sand mixture. Do we salt too much? That's the common complaint. Probably. But I would rather be chastised for using too much salt than not enough. And, it's timing issue. We try to salt at the right time. And sometimes we end up with too much salt if it didn't dissolve right away. And I don't have Like, I can't sit here and say that we're going to do anything different with salting, because we're not, because I'm never going to tell the guy salt less.
My concern is.
Come here, John.
Mhm.
Take off your mask.
Sometimes there's a big glob of it in one place and nothing in other places instead of it being spread evenly.
And I would say, if you see that, I would ask everybody to call concierge. Because when you call and we hear that, and we can't be everywhere, especially, when in the snow. My guys will run out and get rid of the big globs and try to spread it around. So it's, what I can't do is I can't address things that when I hear, every job I've ever had, I hear, well, 3 days ago when they put the salt down, I can't do anything about that. But if I hear right away, out of the door, if somebody calls and says out of the central wing door, there's way too much salt to the right, but there's nothing to the left, I can send Mark out right away to address that. So, if you see specific things, let us know. That's the best I can tell you.
I think the key here is for people to feel comfortable reporting things right there on the spot, so it can be correct. They can be corrected.
Right.
And,
Call
not
concierge. Right.
not to have corrective actions and not complaining actions.
Well, I would say, let's call them observations. If you're making an observation.
Oh, I
us know.
misspelled. Yeah, that was the right term,
Right,
I guess. Bill, come here.
So we know that the answer to everything is submit a work order. How fast does a work order get acknowledged and corrective action started, assuming it could be done right away?
There's no answer. Right, because it goes back to, in other words, what happens to and how a work order works is if somebody, Mrs. Jones calls concierge and says, my closet door isn't closing. Concierge puts the work order into a system. We use a system called WorksHub. And in the morning, Noel will look at all the work orders that came in, and he'll assign those work orders to the maintenance crew. The maintenance crew works day and evening. And then when they get the work order, they go and do it. But they already have work orders that they're working on. And there could be, so like Noel could assign, he sees apartment 822 says that their closet door isn't working. And he gives it to Melvin, the maintenance guy. And Melvin, the maintenance guy, has 8 work orders he has to go do, and he'll get to apartment 822. But an hour into the shift, Tom calls Noel and says, I don't care what you're doing, I need a door changed in apartment 940. And so now everybody has to change that door. And then before that starts, there's a flood. We have to address that. And then as we're doing that, the state survey team walks in. So it's sort of like containing Jell-O without a container. But in theory, now if somebody puts a work order in and they call concierge and they say, I have there's a water coming from under my faucet right now, then concierge will not just submit the work order online. They will, but they'll also call on the radio to who's ever here and say, apartment 940 has a leak right now, and we'll address it right now. I would love to say that every work order gets taken care of that day. I'm not going to say that because that doesn't happen. But we try to get to it as soon as possible. The other thing I would always say is don't hesitate to call back. Call concierge and say, hey, I put a work order in 3 days ago for this, my door doesn't close and it's still not closing, don't hesitate, let them, they'll tell us that you called again. So I don't have an answer as to the exact time. We tried to do it as soon as possible.
So it seems that you have some kind of triage.
Exactly, right, right, because.
But it's not perfect. I mean,
No, because also on any given day, there's days when we have more maintenance guys than other days, just due to scheduling. So it's then also there's things that we tend to give to certain maintenance guys. Like if it's a serious electrical issue, John, who works at night, is going to do it. John's he's not just somebody that plays electrician, he really is an electrician. So it depends on what's coming in and who gets it.
John, again?
Do you have a system for follow through when something can't be done initially? And I ask because I had somebody come, I don't know, it was the end of August, beginning of September-ish, and they tried out the switch. It has to do with the fireplace. And the switch wasn't faulty. And he explained to me it was going to have to be dealt with by an outside person, and they would let me know. Well, I didn't hear. About a month later, I put in another work order, and a different person came thinking it was the switch. Anyway, and so I was just wondering why, what
Yes.
happened with the communication there?
And that's the kind of thing, like I'm saying, like, I don't know anything about that event. Like, I don't know about who came or that work order or anything. And if that had, a couple, like, that's the kind of question that, like, if you came down to to the office hour, Noel is right there.
But you have a system in place.
Yeah, no, we do. And the work order system, the work sub, it will allow for, and what I hope and expect is the maintenance guys can, like, if they went to your unit and there was a switch, they would enter into the work order what happened, what they did, and who they told. Do they always do that as much as I want them to? No. But they need to. And a lot of times when I hear, like in other words, like, tomorrow morning, I'm going to figure this out. I'm not happy. I'm not happy that there isn't communication, but also I don't know exactly what happened. So, I need to speak to Noel. We need to figure out who it was that went there, what the story is. And I just don't know. But is that you being left in the dark and not knowing what happened, is that acceptable? No. You should definitely have been told a lot more about what the story is.
Did you want to say? No. Annette?
Do you have any idea when the great big tall thing with the arms is going to be back on
No.
campus?
I don't have an idea.
Okay, well, there's
I know what you
grass growing in my eaves,
mean.
and
Right.
the water doesn't stay up there. It comes down on the walk and right down into the furnaces. It's going down into
Yeah.
all the furnaces.
And I know what you mean. I don't have an idea.
And I can understand why we need to wait until,
Right.
Yeah.
It is currently, I have never in all my years had an environment where it's so hard to get contractors, to get people to do, the people that we've done that before in the past, he does not have staff. The rental companies don't have staff to crank one out.
Mhm.
It's just, it's like next to impossible to get people to do things.
Okay, well, I also
companies, yeah.
reported the end of the central wing, and that didn't used to be very bad. It just dripped on the
Right.
grass.
Mhm.
Okay, they're
Yeah,
together.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Don?
Tom, are you fully staffed? Do you have as much staff as you want to have?
I have 2 openings right now
Uh-huh.
that are pretty crucial. I desperately need an HVAC tech. we're okay, we're getting by. We're spending some money that we probably shouldn't be spending in outside contractors. But and I also need a painter. And the applications are not good. We don't have them. The applications aren't coming in. The people that we do interview. I had a guy the other day ask, how picky are you about, like, I have to come to work every day on time? So, I mean, that was actually his question.
Well, this sounds something like, I mean, residents can try to send feeders. I mean, if you know anybody
and
that may
right, exactly.
be qualified to do some of these jobs, I mean, to
Right.
apply, I mean.
And when I do interview people, I'm very proud of the compensation package and the work that we're offering. I mean, like, like if I'm talking to a painters or maintenance guys, the HVAC position, sometimes I can't compete dollar for dollar with what people make in the private, like, construction world. But working here, you get paid every week. Not a question of, oh, it rained today, so you don't have work, and our total compensation package, I sit there pretty proud about, what we're offering people to come work for us. And this is not only that, separate aside, this is a pretty good place to work. I mean, it's not every place you can work that, the CEO knows your name and cares about you, so we'll get there. It's not us. It's not what's, my issue with finding people to apply. It's not a Woodland Pond issue. It's everywhere. Right. So it's not something that we have to, it's not us. So right now I have I have those two spots. And if you know of somebody, and like you said, excellent point. I mentioned at the Q&A yesterday, a lot of times people live here, have friends, neighbors, and, bowling partners, and they can talk to them and see if there's somebody that needs a position.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. I mean, it's been an excellent and very enlightening aspect to shine a light of what many people take for granted, really. I mean, in terms of how to run the place.
Thank you.
And thanks for all the audience and the good questions. And we'll see everybody in 2 weeks, I guess.
Thank you.